to the Daily Bite. I'm your host, Pastor Steve Andrews. Today's text is from Joshua chapter 15. The allotment for the tribe of the people of Judah according to their clans reached southward to the boundary of Edom, to the wilderness of Zin at the farthest south. And their south boundary ran from the end of the Salt Sea from the bay that faces southward. It goes out southward of the ascent of Akrabim, passes along to Zin, and goes up south of Kadesh Barnea along by Hezron up to Adar, turns about to Karka, passes along to Asmon, goes out by the brook of Egypt, and comes to its end of the sea. This shall be your south boundary. And the east boundary is the Salt Sea to the mouth of the Jordan, and the boundary on the north side runs from the bay of the sea at the mouth of the Jordan, and the boundary goes up to Beth Hogla and passes along north of Beth Araba, and the boundary goes up to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben, and the boundary goes up to Debir from the valley of Achor, and so northward, turning toward Gilgal, which is opposite the ascent of Adumim, which is on the south side of the valley. And the boundary passes along to the waters of En-Shemesh, and ends at En-Rogel. Then the boundary goes up by the valley of the son of Hinnom, at the southern shoulder of the Jebusite, that is, Jerusalem, and the boundary goes up to the top of the mountain that lies over against the valley of Hinnom on the west, at the northern end of the valley of Rephaim. Then the boundary extends from the top of the mountain to the spring of the waters of Nephtoah, and from there to the cities of Mount Ephron. Then the boundary bends around to Bela, that is, Kiriath Jearim, and the boundary circles west of Bela to Mount Seir, passes along to the northern shoulder of Mount Jearim, that is, Kesalon, and goes down to Beth Shemesh and passes along by Timnah. The boundary goes out to the shoulder of the hill north of Ekron. Then the boundary bends around to Shikkeron and passes along to Mount Bela and goes out to Jabneel. Then the boundary comes to an end at the sea, and the west boundary was the great sea with its coastline. This is the boundary around the people of Judah according to their clans. According to the commandment of Yahweh to Joshua, he gave to Caleb the son of Jephunneh a portion among the people of Judah, Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron. Arba was the father of Anak. And Caleb drove out from there the three sons of Anak, Sheshai and Ahiman and Talmai, the descendants of Anak. And he went up from there against the inhabitants of Debir. Now the name of Debir formerly was Kiriath Sepher, and Caleb said, Whoever strikes Kiriath Sepher and captures it, to him will I give Achsah, my daughter, as wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, the brother of Caleb, captured it, and he gave Achsah his daughter as wife. When she came to him, she urged him to ask her father for a field. And she got off her donkey, and Caleb said to her, What do you want? She said to him, Give me a blessing. Since you have given me the land in the Negev, give me also springs of water. And he gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the people of Judah according to their clans. The cities belonging to the tribe of the people of Judah in the extreme south, toward the boundary of Edom, were Kabzeel, Ader, Jagur, Kaina, Dimona, Adada, Kadesh, Hazor, Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Bealoth, Hazor Hadata, Kerioth, Hezron, that is, Hazor, Amam, Shema, Moladah, Hazar Gadah, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shual, Beersheba, Biziothia, Bela, Eim, Ezem, Eltolad, Kezel, Horma, Ziklag, Madmana, Sansana, Lebaoth, Shilhim, Ain, and Ramon, in all 29 cities with their villages, and in the lowland Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zanoah, Enganim, Tapua, Anam, Jarmuth, Adulam, Soko, Azekah, Shaaraim, Adithaim, Gederah, Gederothaim, 14 cities with their villages, Zanan, Hadasha, Migdal-Gad, Dilian, Mezpah, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Kaban, Lamam, Kitlish, Kederoth, Beth Dagon, Naamah, and Makkedah, 16 cities with their villages, Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Iphthah, Ashna, Nazib, Kala, Akzib, and Marashah, 9 cities with their villages, Ekron, with its towns and its villages, from Ekron to the sea, all that were by the sea of Ashdod, with their villages. Ashdod, its towns and its villages. Gaza, its towns and villages, to the brook of Egypt and the great sea with its coastline. And in the hill country, Shamir, Jatir, Soko, Dana, Kiriath Sanah, that is Debir, Anab, Eshtemoh, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Gilo, 11 cities with their villages. Arab, Duma, Ashan, Janim, Beth Tapua, Afika, Humta, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, and Zior, 9 cities with their villages. Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Juta, Jezreel, Jokdeam, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 cities with their villages. Halho, Bethzur, Gedor, Merath, Bethanoth, and El Takan, 6 cities with their villages. Kiriath Arba, that is Kiriath Jearim, and Rabbah, 2 cities with their villages. In the wilderness, Beth Araba, Medin, Sakaka, Nibshan, the city of Salt, and Engedi, 6 cities with their villages. But the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the people of Judah, could not drive out, so the Jebusites dwell with the people of Judah at Jerusalem to this day. This is the word of the Lord. There's a lot there today, isn't there? A lot of names, and I will be the first to acknowledge to you that I probably butchered a number of those names. I don't really know. The trick they teach you at the seminary is just read them with confidence and keep going. So as I've studied Hebrew, you pick up a little bit of the way different vowels and things sound. So those are educated guesses from me, but that's all they are. So if you're reading through this and you're having trouble pronouncing them, that's okay. Just give it a shot, right? And try to read what is written in God's Word for us to see. You're going to benefit greatly in this chapter and the next few from having a map of the 12 tribes of Israel. So you can either, again, go to your Lutheran Study Bible, page 365, or just use your favorite web browser and search for Old Testament map, 12 tribes of Israel. That'll pull up lots of images, and just pick one that you like to look at. These will be helpful. We only get the tribe of Judah today in this list, and that's important for us to recognize because Judah, well, first, I guess Caleb was first, right, yesterday in chapter 14. Here in chapter 15, we get Judah. Judah is not the firstborn son of Jacob, of Israel. However, because of the way things transpired, Judah is the one that Jacob chose to pass down the primary role. I mean, he's not firstborn, but he gets treated as firstborn. He gets the primary part of the inheritance as well as the blessing bestowed on him. And so that's probably why we start here with Judah. And noteworthy for us is also going to be the idea that when the king of Israel foolishly, Rehoboam, loses most of the kingdom, Judah is going to be, well, the name of the new southern kingdom, as Israel retains the name and moves off to the north. And the tribe of Judah, along with, I believe it was the tribe of Benjamin, are the ones that remain as the southern kingdom of Judah, retaining what will become the capital city, Jerusalem, although as we see at the end of the chapter, it's not yet. They don't even possess it at this point. As you look at one of those sorts of maps, you might notice that Judah's going to have a significant amount of territory, and maybe only rivaled by Manasseh, because Manasseh has a large chunk on both the west and the east side of the Jordan River. So this is an important part of the kingdom. Now, the boundary lists are going to show up for the other tribes as well as we move forward, but again, just Judah today. So we have a recap there with Caleb from what we saw yesterday, that he has taken Kiriath Arba, and so we actually see him do this here, right? Verse 14, he drives them out, the sons of Anak, the Anakim, the giants, in a sense, is the way that a lot of people will look at that. And then we see also that he goes and captures another place, Debir, that was Kiriath Sefer. Kiriath means city, so the city of Sefer. I believe that originally means city of scrolls, or scrolls, I guess we would say, like the house of books or something like that, basically a library by name. Now, you're going to have that Kiriath word repeat in the chapter. You'll see a couple others that repeat as well. Beth, as it looks in English, Beth from Hebrew is the word for a house. And so that often shows up. I mean, even Bethel, right? A major Old Testament city name means house of God. Or Bethlehem means house of bread. So that's another one. And then this Hazor word is also going to show up. Hazor is a Hebrew verb for to gather. And so the noun ends up meaning basically a place where people have gathered. Or, in this case, a village or a city. And so that's why that word will also appear frequently, especially in that paragraph that starts at verse 20. Anyway, so Caleb goes after Kiriath Sepher and offers his daughter as a wife to whoever would conquer Kiriath Sepher for him, and it's his brother, Othniel, that ends up being the one to do that. So Achsah goes to Othniel for a bride. We actually learn later on from the book of Judges that Othniel is the younger brother of Caleb and will become the first judge after the death of Joshua, whether you want to count Joshua as a judge or not. So he's either the second judge or the first, depending on that then. Now, his daughter, having become married, asks basically for Dad to give her a gift of a field, and then beyond that asks for a blessing that she would also have a spring of water to go with her field, and Dad grants her what she asks for. And so that's recorded there for us in verse 19. Then the next paragraph, this is where kind of the family conversation might go as a way to work with a chapter like this with all these names. Ask your children if any of the names sound familiar. Have you heard this before? Do you recognize this? Or do you know something that happened in this city or this place? Those are the kinds of questions that might be helpful as they hear all these different names. Maybe they read all of these different names depending on how old they are and who reads the Bible as you gather together sometimes. It's good to let family members take turns. So there are some recognizable ones. That Hazor word is going to show up right there, 4-5 times in verses 23 through 28, and again meaning basically a village or a city. So that's why you see it so much. And that's not the same Hazor then that we saw Joshua conquer back in chapter 11. This is a different one because Judah's allotment doesn't stretch that far north. Beersheba is a name I would point out from that first list. Beersheba is going to show up in the Old Testament several times, but basically it's be'er is the Hebrew word for a well, and so whenever you see that word in English, beer, it's basically well, and this is then the well of Sheba, which is a word that means oath, and this actually goes back to Genesis chapter 26, where Isaac is the one who names this city this on account of what had happened to him there. So you can check out the Genesis 26 text to figure that one out if you'd like. As you move forward, you'll see, numbers, right? If I've counted it right, it's 112 cities listed in this text. And again, some of them will be familiar. Even the previous chapters, as we've seen Joshua and the Israelites capturing places, defeating kings. The names like Adullam, Azekah, Mizpah, Lachish. It should sound familiar. And also here, interestingly, verses 45 through 47, Ekron, Ashdod, Gaza, those are three of those 5 chief Philistine cities that we've read before. So these are places that Israel has not yet captured because the Philistines still dwell in them, but it's being given to Judah as part of their inheritance, so they need to go and capture it. They're to go and take it. And that won't actually happen until under the reign of King David, who is of Judah, so I guess that's fitting at least. Other cities that might sound familiar, Carmel is where David's wife Abigail will come from. Now, it sounds like Mount Carmel is too far to the north to be this same location. It's a little bit debated what the word Carmel means from what I can tell, either basically a garden place or the vineyard of God. That EL ending is the Hebrew word for God. So when you see that, that's often why it's there. Jezreel may look familiar to you, as that's actually a place where David gets another of his wives, Ahinoam of Jezreel, but it's also the name that God commands Hosea to name one of his children in the beginning of the book of Hosea, as he has to live out basically God's relationship with Israel and its brokenness. Kiriath Jearim shows up down in verse 60. That's a city of Jearim, right? Kiriath meaning city. And so this is important later on. Its claim to fame in Scripture would be that the Ark of the Covenant, God's throne, stays in Kiriath Jearim for roughly 20 years. It's not the capital city by any stretch of the imagination, but just the way things play out, right? The 1 Samuel chapter 4, the ark gets captured. It bounces around among the various Philistine cities and causes damage because it's the Lord's throne, and they are not his people. And so eventually the Philistines get tired of it and they send it back, this great capture that they had made. And by 1 Samuel chapter 7, it settles in Kiriath Jearim, and then verse 2 is where you learn that it's there for 20 years. En-Gedi is another name that might sound familiar to some. It's where David hid before he was king over all of Israel. He hid there from Saul when Saul was attempting to kill him. So some of these will sound familiar. Jerusalem in verse 63 will obviously sound familiar, as that's the capital city that will someday be, but it won't be until the reign of King David. So David is going to become king. That'd be the 10th century, right around the turn of the 10th century BC, around the year 1000 BC. I forget the exact year at the moment, but it's in that time period. And we're around 1400 BC. So at this point, we've got almost 400 years to go before King David will end up being king in the city of Jerusalem. So this is the allotment that has been given to God's people of Judah. And they're on the southern side of the kingdom. The Salt Sea is on their east, the Mediterranean Sea to their west. And really, if you head south from Judah, you're pretty much leaving the nation of Israel. They'll be bordered on the north by the tribes of Dan and Benjamin. Simeon's tribe will be located in the midst of Judah as you're looking at a map. So there's a rough outline for you, and that's what we have for Judah today.